Gotta be on your best behavior now. Perfect. So welcome to Nerdy 30. It's our new Thursday after hours event. So cheers to that. We're taking 30 minutes to highlight some fun opportunities, mastermind with agents across Hawaii. Today we have Fred Sconfienza from Maui. Thank you for joining. The topic I'd like to focus on is a feature that comes from our new agent websites, which is what we're calling the 10-second open house sign-in form. So I know a lot of times in the real estate business, when you're planning an open house, you print out some sign-in forms, you get the scribbles, clipboard, and that's kind of how we've been doing it for decades. This new tool with the updated websites allows you to create an interactive sign-in form that feeds your contacts directly into your command, which is extremely valuable. We're going to go over a couple of ways to leverage that sign-in, and without further ado, let's get started. The sign-in form is created with 3 easy steps. First, you go to your KW agent website. Then you use the search feature to find the listing that you're holding the open house at. So you go to your website, type in the address, pulls up a bunch of results. You click the property landing page that you're holding the open house for. The important thing here is it doesn't have to be your listing. It doesn't even have to be a Keller Williams listing. If there's any property on the MLS, you can click that landing page and generate a sign-in form. At the end of the web page address for that property, you'll toggle your cursor at the very end of the URL and then type /open house, no quotations. And that will take you, it probably takes about 3 to 5 seconds to build a custom landing page, but it'll take you to this new open house sign-in form that it automatically creates. And that's why we call it the 10-second open house sign-in form, because literally the only work you have to do is find the property and then type open house after the URL. So to walk you through that, you'll go to your KW website, double check that your URL is the start of that .kw.com site. In this case, we're looking at Jessica Campbell. Highlighted there is the property search feature. You'll type in the address. Once you pull up that property landing page, again, you'll type /open house, super duper simple. And then this is what it will create. It's the custom sign-in page. It shows the property information, the price, and some of the critical information like bedrooms, bathrooms, square foot, property size, etc. The opportunity here is to use this on an iPad or a computer, laptop, at the open house instead of the old-fashioned sign-in form where you have to decipher scribbles. The other factor here is that once they enter their information, you're not only getting their first and last name and phone number, which I think most of us have on our sign-in forms, you're also getting their email address and permission to market to them, which, as we all know, with the regulatory rules, if you don't have permission to market to them, you could be considered spam and then be sued for $5,000 per contact. I mean, it's a nightmare. And this avoids that because you're literally getting permission from everyone at your open house to market to them. And that permission is what we're going to leverage today. This is the confirmation page after they sign in. It shows the agent information, again, in this case, Jessica Campbell, contact information. It highlights the specific property they're signing into. And because we know that most people visiting an open house aren't going to be carrying their computer around, they have their mobile phones in their pocket. If they'd like to learn more during the walkthrough, maybe you're busy with another client or there's not an agent available immediately for them, they can scan this QR code and view the property information on their device. This is important because if they didn't pre-research that property, maybe they're just in the neighborhood and saw the open house sign and they know they're in the market in the next 1 to 3 months, and they just popped in. This gives them all the answers that they're looking for right on their mobile device for a sort of self-guided open house until you're available to help them. If you were signing in several visitors at the same time, you would click this top left button back to sign in, and that would regenerate that sign-in sheet for the next customer. 3 really good reasons to do this, again, is because it automatically adds that customer to your command. It'll come in the form of a new lead. It won't show up in any sort of email or notification. But when you're on your command homepage, where it shows all the different lead sources, you can click leads not yet contacted, and that's where these leads will come in. There's a couple of cool things I'm going to highlight where you can actually set up a rule, a leads rule, where you can automatically tag that contact so that you know the house that they signed into, and then we can leverage that to create an automatic smart plan that introduces you as an agent and reminds you to do follow-up in 1 to 3 days. So it also tags the property on the contact. So when you open that new lead that hasn't been contacted, you'll see the exact address where they signed in to an open house sign-in form. And then you look super professional because you're carrying a laptop instead of a laptop or an iPad instead of a clipboard, right? We know plenty of agents that do that, but there's an opportunity to look a little bit more professional by using technology, which more consumers trust, right? Any questions so far?
Good.
Awesome. So now let's talk about leveraging this sign-in tool. Give me 1 second. The best way to do that is to build a open house follow-up smart plan that includes an introduction to you as an agent, a link to your KW consumer app and agent site, and then create a task to call or text them in the next 1 to 2 days. The opportunity there is like, I don't know if any of you have held open houses or several open houses in one weekend. The clipboard kind of just goes in the back of the car with the open house signs once the event is over. And then maybe middle of next week, you remember, oh gosh, I probably should follow up with those people. This makes it automatic. So once they sign in, they can be automatically tagged with an open house tag in your contacts and automatically be signed up to a smart plan that introduces you as an agent and reminds you to call them and provides more information to them about properties that are similar. I'll kind of highlight that shortly. So we already talked about creating a lead management rule with an auto tag for open house and open house smart plan. And then this allows you to follow up and follow through. So instead of those contacts withering away because you reached out maybe 5 or 10 days later when you remembered your clipboard, we're going to start contacting those clients right away, which we know is the most impactful time to close business. So now let's go to my command. And I'm going to show you what that looks like in real time.
See it in action.
Yes. Oops. Every time I type in command, it brings me to 3M's command strips. Let's get to our actual command. One thing I want to highlight while that's loading is that I have created a 1-page off of answers.kw.com. I literally copied and pasted, but it's a step-by-step guide on how to create that custom sign-in form, which I'll share with everybody at the end of this. So for now, here is my landing page. This is the leads never contacted section where the sign-ins will show up when you get back on your command on mobile or on your desktop. Oops, I'm in a different person's command. Here we go. Let's get into my command. Okay, leads never contacted. That's where the open house sign-in form leads are going to show up. And what I've done on the back end is if you go to settings, and you go to command settings and contacts. Nope. What am I looking for? Lead? Yes, contacts. And then lead management. This is where we can create lead management rules that allow you to auto tag and contact tag and then automatically assign smart plans. So what I did was I clicked this create rule, entered the rule as open house smart plan. Lead source, in this case, I decided to do both open houses because if I do tag a client outside of the sign-in form, I still want to provide the same level of introduction and follow-up. So I'm just going to search open house. So this open house site is the one that is auto-generated when they sign in on that open house sign-in page. And then if for some reason I did an open house or met a contact at an open house outside of that sign-in page. I still want them to receive that follow-up. So I'm going to tag both of those. I want to auto tag them open house. And then I also want to auto tag them as buyer. Because remember, if they're visiting an open house, it means they're interested in buying a property. And then on the back end, which I'll show you shortly, I created an open house smart plan that I feel is an effective way for me to follow up in an intimate way, but still not be too pushy. So I'll kind of highlight why I chose what I chose through that smart plan in a moment. But now what we're really saying is with this rule, the second those contacts sign in on my open house, they're automatically added to my command with a tag of the exact property that they visited. They're automatically tagged with open house and buyer in my contacts. And then they're going to start getting an introduction smart plan that I've crafted in a way that allows me to remember to follow up, but also gives them value as a potential buyer. So I can click create rule. I'm going to hit cancel because I've already created that exact rule here. It's already in the works. And so now I'm going to go to smart plans and highlight kind of what I chose to do with that open house smart plan. Any questions so far?
No, that's great. Great. A little bit of
Okay.
prep time to save you tons of time on the follow-up.
Exactly. That's what I like about it is instead of sitting down the next day and sending 14 emails and making 14 calls and creating a calendar reminder in 3 days to follow up with them, this is automatically done for you. The contacts automatically feed with the information you need to follow up, and the tasks will automatically feed into your tasks panel in command. So when you open it up in 3 days, it reminds you, hey, call this guy or gal, and they showed up at this specific open house. Ask them how it was. If it wasn't great, ask them what other properties they want to look at. So let's highlight my kind of suggested opportunities. So first off, what I did was I started in our command library for smart plans. I searched open house. I always recommend starting not from scratch, but from what successful people have been successful with, right? And so here's a really good one, 110,000 almost downloads, 4.5 stars, 30 reviews, really good smart plan, right? If it's impacting 30 people in a high level and being useful to 110,000 people, it's probably a good place to start. So kind of take a look at the steps that they're taking. Automated text, wait a day, interact with the contact, wait 2 days, phone call, wait 2 days, automated text. So this one is pretty text and call heavy. I'll show you, I did modify my plan. Oh, click the wrong button. To be a mix of calls, emails, and texts. So I'll show you kind of what I've done and why I chose to do that. And again, you can customize this in any way you want. Download something that's kind of a good rough draft from the library, and then modify it and customize the language so that it fits you. So let's look at what I've chosen to do here. We're going to send a text immediately that says, aloha, first name. It was great to meet you at the open house. Let me know if you have any questions about the property. So we want to create a call to action there. Instead of just saying, hi, I'm John. Great to see you, right? We want them to engage. If you have any questions about the property, would it make sense for me to send a list of upcoming open houses so we can view a few other properties together? That's a second call to action that's specific to them and where they're at in the buying process. The challenge I see a lot of people making in the sales industry is that they send a blanket response to everyone. But this client's going to know, hey, I know you were at the open house. I know you're interested in buying. I would love to offer you some other open houses to look at. And if they're not working or committed to another agent, or maybe they're unhappy with their agent, this is a great opportunity for them to say, absolutely, let's go look at some other open houses. And then it provides the agent's first name, last name, all the required information. And then I want to highlight this. P.S. You can find more properties like this on my KW app link here. I'm always trying to feed people back into my app so that when they're looking at properties through the app, my face, my name, my email are the ones that pop up when they're looking at properties. So that's the first contact. Very soft, but still effective, right? Excuse me. So then we're going to wait 3 days. That is up for debate. And again, all of these elements are customizable. It's totally up to you. Odds are, if you've engaged that customer with the first 2 questions, let me know if you have any questions and can we look at other open houses? You guys have had a conversation going back and forth over the next day or 2 days. And so if you wait 3 days, the next step would be a really good phone call. So we're going to say, hey, reminder, the client visited your open house 3 days ago. Call and ask them what they thought about it. I would skip that step because, again, this just goes into your tasks and you know the clients you're working with. If you had a really engaging conversation via text or they called you after that text, I would skip that. This is a reminder that if they didn't respond or if it was kind of a lackluster response, you could always call them and have a more engaging conversation. And then wait another 3 days and then interact with the contact. In this step, it's in preparation for the end of this smart plan. And the step is it reminds you, the client visited your open house. And let me see if I can dig in here. Add the neighborhood of the open house that they visited. And then if you visited them with them via text or phone call and you know other neighborhoods they're interested in or the neighborhood they live in right now, I would add all of those neighborhoods to their contact in your command. And then my suggestion is to do a simple email. It says, Aloha contact. Oh, you know what? I really want to dig into this. Let me open this.
There you go. Yep.
The previews are working, but they're not anymore. So let's get into details. So step. We've already talked about all these. Waiting 3 days. Adding the neighborhood. So, and I always recommend if you're doing tasks that don't just put add neighborhood, because when it shows up in your task list, you're gonna be like, yeah, but for who and for what? And you got to click into it and figure that out. If you put in the contact's first name and last name, you just automatically know you got to add the neighborhood for John Smith, right? So then we're adding neighborhood and any neighborhoods they discussed with you. We already talked about that. Okay, so now that we've added their neighborhood, we're going to offer additional value. That's my number one recommendation as a salesperson is that you are either serving or taking, right? You're giving or taking. And so if you're giving information, now that we've added their neighborhoods to their contact, we can sign them up for the Neighborhood Nurture Smart Plan. So this email is in preparation for that. And I should add a caveat. If they've already reached out to you and looked at other properties, I would interrupt this smart plan and I would take it off of their contact because this is built out in a way that assumes that they haven't responded yet in an impactful way. So if you do have a meeting with them, they don't have an agent, they're taking you on as an agent, I would interrupt this smart plan. But this is designed for the 17 or 18, 20 people that come through your open house that maybe 1 or 10 or 20% of them are going to respond, but a majority of them aren't. So if they don't respond, keep them going on this smart plan. The next step is this email. It says, hey, keeping you updated on your target neighborhoods. And Aloha, first name. I send out a monthly market report to help you keep an eye on changes in your favorite neighborhoods. I've added the neighborhoods we discussed, but let me know if you don't see one of the neighborhoods in the report, and I'll add one of your favorite neighborhoods in the report, and I'll add it for you. Right? So this is custom contact. I'm paying close attention to their needs as a customer. And I'm not assuming that my understanding of the conversation is the right understanding. I'm saying, hey, I add value and I'd love to make it valuable for you. If it's not as valuable as it could be, let me know. I would love to hear your perspective on how the changes may affect your real estate decisions. I made that very vague because we don't know if they're in a house right now that they need to sell, right? Because we added their home address, neighborhood, if we knew it, or if they're in the market for buying and they don't know if now's the right time or if they think the market's going to fall or if it's going to keep rising. And so all of those variables are swirling around this one sentence. I would love to hear your perspective on how the changes may affect your real estate decisions. It's just vague enough, but still a question. I'm always available to chat at my phone number. That's a customizable section. Feel free to reach out anytime. So, again, you'll notice the PS, which I always recommend. You can always view more neighborhoods and properties on my app here or on my desktop site here or on your desktop here, and you'll put your URL there. And then we're going to wait a day and send that neighborhood nurture smart plan. That's what I like about smart plans is that if it gets past the point where it makes sense to continue a single track of thought, like they haven't engaged after the open house, then we can shift them over to a different section of our nurture plan, our smart plan, which in this case is probably our most generic, the neighborhood nurture. But it still adds value and keeps them on the hook as a potential buyer in the future. So maybe they were just out for ice cream and thought, oh, let's just go to an open house. This transition makes sense because it's not pushy. It asks questions so that if they are interested in engaging, they will. And if it doesn't make sense, it doesn't continue assuming that they're in the same stage of the buying process as we thought they were when we shook their hand at the open house. It transitions them to a softer, more subtle contact plan that we know we can follow up with in the future. Any questions so far?
How about if they come in and they're working with an agent?
That's a really good question. If it's within a KW agency, I would politely and respectfully not do that. And because we automatically assign that smart plan, it has some initial triggers after the text that you could interrupt that at. Maybe they said, "Hey, I'm working with Bonnie," and you'd be like, "Cool, cool, cool." I'll make a mental note of that because once it gets to this make a call, or yeah, once it gets to this make a call after the initial introduction, then I would cancel that contact smart plan, right? Out of respect
Okay.
for agents in the brokerage. But as we
Yes.
know, if they're in another brokerage or if they don't have another agent, sometimes people are unhappy with their agents. They're not serving them at a high level. This type of plan introduces you at a really high level, and maybe you are a better option as their agent, right?
I would definitely add, if is that what they said, like I'm working with somebody, a great follow-up question is like, oh, who? Right? And if they can't name a name,
Right.
then you kind of sniff it out. If they do say that they're working with somebody, right? That's a very like whether or not you ask if they have anything signed. If they do have something signed, you definitely don't want to go any further into that, right? Hey, great luck with your search. There's different ways to attack that. Like Ray said, like
Mm-hmm.
if they're unhappy or whatnot, you come across as just helpful anyway. They they may give you a call back. I personally would be hesitant to like you don't want to interject yourself into somebody else's agreement. That being said, I try and find out who it is, and when I can, I'm actually sending that agent an email and saying,
Right.
"Thank you for sending so and so to my open house. They seem pretty interested. Let me know if they have any questions."
So on the sign in, the open house, 10-second open house sign in page, is
Mm-hmm.
there a spot for them to put their agent?
Nope. That'll be an interpersonal conversation.
Okay.
While you're showing, say, "Oh, this is our second bathroom. By the way, are you working with an agent?"
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's actually the big opportunity with open houses, and why I always advise people, even if you don't have any ESPOs open, no listings, you're not working with any buyers, go sit open houses. I mean, it's literally an inbound lead source that we're not taking as good of advantage of as we could be. Because what's walking through the door? Some looky loos maybe, but a lot of potential buyers.
Right.
And that's why part of my smart plan strategy there was to say, hey, was this a good fit? Probably 20% of the time it is a good fit, and they might request more information or want to submit an offer, but the majority of the time it's not a good fit for price or size or neighborhood or any of those reasons. And that's why if you open the door and say, hey, let's look at some other options, or are you interested in a list of other open houses, that doesn't assume the hard path, which is like, let's put in an offer, let's do this, I'm your agent, I want to let's close this right now. It's like, hey, does this make sense to you? If not, let's look at some other stuff. And again, that kind of highlights the flexibility of smart plans. It can be tailored to your specific sales style. It can open up to a wider variety of the audience than you think is, maybe in the market right now versus 6 months from now. It's broad enough so that it kind of invites all of those people in at different points in the smart plan, and you can customize it to what makes sense to you.
Leverage the great R&D department that we have, right? Rip off and duplicate. Like somebody has already built it. I think Ray typed in open house. There were like 300 different types of open house.
There's a lot,
right?
a lot.
Use it as a framework so you're not thinking about what do I want to do. Oh, I like that framework, but I love the verbiage and the changes that Ray had made personally, right? What's your style? What do you want to say? And you can do that while leveraging something that's automatic, systematic, letting you just connect, right? Oh, you're working with Fred. Fred is amazing. And I'm on my cell phone making a note. Okay, Fred's working with this person, right? Because they're all in your database. Then you're automating your process and your follow-up and delivering like that personal experience. And it's just going for you, right? So a little bit of time up front, like we mentioned, so that way on the back end, the system is working for you, letting you mix in, right? If you notice that smart plan ran for 8 days with different types of touches. Some of you all out there like that are watching this video, like, and Fred, I don't know what your style is, but you might like want to blitz the phone while these emails and text messages are going out automatically, right? So you're kind of getting that extra supplementation. It's so good, right? From what the verbiage was great, visually for me too, you could go in and those subject lines on the emails are emoji sensitive, right? Emojipedia.com is great. So on that email subject line about property, put a little house in there, right? So the email pops. The smart plans, neighborhood smart plan that goes out, it does come through like a bulk email system. And like the open house is an opportunity to engage that open house email going out or that neighborhood smart plan that goes out, then is another opportunity to follow up and say, hey, did you receive my information? Right? It could have gone to spam, it could have gone straight to them, and it could have gone unnoticed because maybe they didn't open it up. So it's just getting them cycled into your information and communication allows you that conversation on the back end, right? You could add another step to that smart plan for 31 days because it's a 30-day or a monthly report that goes out. And on the 31st or 32nd day after it goes out, hey, Fred, this is Kerry with Keller Williams Realty Maui. Just checking in. We met at an open house about a month ago. I want to make sure that you're getting that market trend report for Kahului. Oh, I didn't see it. Oh, you know what? Maybe it's in your spam folder. Did you find that dream home yet? Or are you still out there searching? Tell me more about that. Right? Just again, getting your foot in the door and continuing the conversation.
Right. I like that. It's at this point, it's about how can we reduce the amount of input that we put, right? I schedule that plan that we just went through once. And then for the next 100 or 1,000 open houses that I do, all of those contacts are auto-fed that plan. So I did that work once. Instead of sending 1,000 emails and 1,000 texts and 1,000 phone calls, I did it once. And it reminds you, and this is actually a great point, check into your command tasks every day. Make it part of your routine, time block it early, and say, oh, I got to call this guy because 3 days ago they visited my open house and I sent them an introduction and said I would be reaching out. So like follow through with that, right? But how can we leverage these tools? How can we think about personalizing them in a way that makes sense to us, right? If you download a pre-made template of smart plans and it says howdy, that's not very Hawaii, right? You'll want to change that to aloha, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But like Carrie said, if it has a pre-done plan and it's working for 110,000 people, what's the worst that could happen? Personalize it, program it to fit you, and start that plan.
Yeah, it's definitely helpful, especially when you're busy and you're holding open houses on the regular.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Well, and this is one. How many open houses do you do a week, Fred?
I haven't been
Oh,
doing any, but there's times where I've gone through where I'm doing them all the time and bouncing
mhm.
around, and there's offers coming in, and then you just kind of lose sight of some people that you maybe you followed up, but then 3, 4 days go by and you forget about them. Then you see the
Right.
piece of paper a week later, and you're like, oh, I need to check back with
Biscuit. Well, and who do you think they're going to work with? The guy that called him a week and a half later, or the guy that sent him a text 12 hours later?
right,
Right.
12 hours.
So what I wanted to highlight with that is it's like open houses are a small piece of what we do as a real estate agent, right? We're working with listing, we're working with buyers, we're dealing with open escrows, we're networking. And so to be able to just have that pre-done and be able to move on to your next appointment or move on to your next activity or focus is incredible. And then if you're managing your task panel and following through on those tasks daily, then everything just kind of flows in, flows out, and it's incredible. And you can program smart plans not only for open house visitors, but for every other segment of your audience as well. And so that's the benefit, is that it's customized to their experience. They were open house, they're buyers, they're looking at properties. Let's make a message that impacts them and invites them to reach out. But then for listing clients, let's make a different smart plan. Let's automate a different process that connects with them with where they're at. So, this is one smart plan in a larger strategy. And frankly, you should have 10 or 12 different smart plans going at once to fit the different segments of your client base. And so actually, if you want to stop recording, thanks everyone.
Yeah, so nerdy 30. So what we are going to do too, so we're gonna talk